Hey guys, Deep Pockets here. I had a question from a listener there that they were asking me, getting ready to start, get their go to class, get their CDL, and start in the trucking industry, and they were asking me, flatbed, van, reefer, which would I recommend? My thoughts, and a lot easier to do a video than type a small book in the comment section. I've done it a lot over the years. I started out pulling a dry van, general freight, cardboard, actually recycled cardboard. Man, I thought I was making bank. My goodness, I ran my butt off, and I was making more money than I'd ever made in my life, and I didn't even realize for almost 2 years that I was making peanuts. There was so much better out there. Some people may want to haul dry van for certain reasons, so I'll get to that a little bit later, but I switched over from dry van to refrigerated, the reefer, and I made better money hauling a reefer. Different problems, different headaches with reefers. Dry van, a lot of times you go make your delivery, and truck drivers out there can testify how many times dispatchers have said, "This is a hot load. It's a hot load, man. Can you get it there? Just whatever you do, get it there." They're waiting on it. They're sitting there waiting on it, and then you pull into the place, and, "Hey, man, this is a hot load. I got it here as fast as I could." And those people are like, "You're not due till Thursday." When a dispatcher tells you one thing, there's no such thing as a hot load. You get it there, you do your best always with every load. You're in the trucking industry, your word is your bond, your reputation is your bond. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you can't do it for any reason, communicate. It's all about communication. Any dispatcher will tell you the perfect driver for a dispatcher is one that they can hand a load to and not worry about it. Consider that load delivered unless you hear otherwise. If you're going to be late, if you're going to be even 10 minutes late, call that dispatcher ahead of time and let them know, so they don't get egg on their face with the customer. Why is your driver late? They already have the answer. They'll send an email to the customer, let them know you're going to be late, and then you won't run into the whole, you're 10 minutes late, you got to go to the back of the line and wait 4 hours to get unloaded. Communication will save you so much time and headache. Just communicate. Don't be afraid. Just let them know what's going on. Like I said, the perfect driver's the ghost. They don't want to have to, hold your hand and tell you this and that and the other. Give you the information. I got it. I'll go pick up that load. I'll get it there on time. That's it. They don't need any other communication. Don't bother them. Don't pester them. You got questions, have a group of people that you can go to ask questions to. And then if you have something that's going to delay you, a breakdown, whatever, communicate with your dispatcher. It will make you will rise to the top so fast just by communicating. Throughout my entire career, I've always been in the top 5 to 10% of everything I've ever done because I'm not afraid to communicate. I tell them, consider that load delivered unless you hear otherwise. And if I'm going to be even 10 minutes late, 5 minutes late, if I'm going to be right on the money, dead on time, I let them know just in case something happens in the last 10 to 15 minutes. They already know it's going to be close. I might be a few minutes late, But anyway, I switched to reefer. The different problems with reefer is delivery times. These warehouses they're gargantuan. They're huge. They've got hundreds of trucks a day coming in, hundreds of trucks a day going out. They don't care about you, your company, your product. All they care about is their inventory and their building and keeping that product moving. They've ordered ahead of time. They might have, say you got a load of bananas you're delivering to a warehouse. They might not need those bananas for 6 hours. Even though you've got a 4 o'clock appointment time, they're not going to get to you. Say you're there at 3 o'clock, you've got a 4 o'clock appointment, you're like, all right, I'm going to be out of here in a couple of hours. Well, they don't need those bananas. The computer says 6 hours is when we're going to need the next delivery. So guess what? You're a warehouse sitting out in their parking lot getting paid peanuts if you do even get detention. A lot of companies don't even pay detention, or they call it demurrage, or whatever fancy terminology. You're sitting there as a rolling warehouse. And on top of that, throughout the day, they're shipping their products out to their customers. They don't even want to receive any new inventory until the nighttime. So a lot of deliveries with a reefer that I did personally, 3 o'clock in the morning, 1 in the morning, 4 in the morning. I mean, They wanted to start at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night and take all their deliveries by 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So at 6, they're rolling their trucks in, loading their outbound stuff and shipping it out. Myself, I'm not a nighttime driver. I never have been. Don't like it. So I did reefer for quite a few years, but I actually did a distribution center job where it was for a particular grocery store, and it was delivering from the distribution center to all of their grocery stores. I was a glorified grocery boy, delivery boy. Didn't mind the job, good hours, got home all the time, made much better money than I did pulling a box, but still it wasn't great money. It was better money. I did that for many, many, many years. And then, throughout communication and my network of people that I met over the years, a buddy of mine hooked me up with pulling a tanker. He's like, man, you can do better. And then the company that he was with had a run that would put me right back and forth past my house. I thought, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. And I went and hooked up and started pulling a tanker. And I pulled all sorts of stuff. I mean, I pulled chemicals that melt your face off. I pulled, processed animal fat. Just any kind of liquid you could imagine. Ethanol. Pulled all sorts of stuff. Some of that stuff's pretty dangerous. Pulling a tanker is not for the faint of heart. Imagine a 45,000 pound load that never sits still. It's always moving. Forward, backward, side to side. It's always moving. You take a corner and you're expecting the truck to lean a little bit. Well, you've got 45,000 pound of liquid going up on the side of the tank. Now you're really leaning over. It'll make the butthole pucker. Trust me, it's a scary thought. Come to an intersection, hit your brakes, and okay, I'm stopped. Well, now you've got a 45,000 pound wave smack in the front of that trailer, shoving you right through the intersection. Just trust me, pulling a tanker is not for the faint of heart. Even shifting gears, you have to time the way you shift gears because you've got a wave flowing forward and backward. And you'll see, if you watch now, now that I'm mentioning it, you'll start to see it. If you see a tanker, not the little gasoline haulers, because they've got multiple baffles in their trailers, so they don't get a lot of slosh. But when you see the smooth, what is it, a C305 or 603? I can't remember the model number of the tank, but it's a chemical tank. There's no baffles. It's one smooth tube. That's the one that sloshes real bad. Watch them at a stoplight. They'll come to a stop, and they're sitting there during the red light, and all of a sudden you see their truck jerk and lurch forward. A couple of seconds later, jerks and bounces backward. A couple of seconds later, jerks forward. That's that wave in the back, smacking and pulling, and they're holding that brake for dear life so that it doesn't throw them into the car in front of them. Yeah, tankers can be quite dangerous, but pretty lucrative. I mean, you make some pretty good money pulling a tanker. But they've got their frustrations too. After each load, you're going to a tank wash, and you might give up half a day to wash that tank out before you can go reload another load, so there's no rapid turnover. Not much. I mean, certain industries, they just do a quick rinse, or some people don't even wash their tanks. They just switch from one thing to the next and make sure they empty it all out and then just go throw another product in the trailer. And but when you're hauling chemicals, you've got to be extremely cautious, especially like food grade. They have a special kind of wash called a kosher wash that you have to be sterilized, dry, no scents, no odors. It's there's a lot of special things you have to do for food grade, but hauling chemicals, same thing. You don't want to put this chemical in there and drain it out of the tank. There's a little bit left, because no matter how hard you try, there's always going to be half a gallon, maybe 2, 3, 4 gallons, depending on how long you let it sit there and dribble at the end. Well, then you take that chemical and you go load another chemical that reacts with the first chemical. You just made a bomb. I mean, it's very, very specialized market, and you can make money. It's not a lot of physical labor hauling a tank. Pulling a box and a reefer, you can get into, they call it fingerprinting, breaking down pallets. You might have a stack of boxes that's a pallet that's 7 stacks high, and this receiver only wants them 5. So you got to break off the top 2, and they'll give you a stack of pallets, or you pay what's called lumpers it's a contractor, a laborer. You contract labor. They go as the receiver pulls the lumpers themselves pull the product off the trailer. Then they got other guys that come in and break off the top 2 layers and create another pallet, because their shelves for storage can only fit a 5-box pallet, not a 7-box. So they have to pull that top 2 layers off. Then you got lumper fees. It just I was so glad to get away from reefer and box. So glad to get away from that. Tanker, it was better. But like I said, my situation in the prior video, I had one kid that was starting college, and then just a few years after that, I was going to have 2 kids in college. And I knew in order to live my same lifestyle, I had to increase my income by a certain amount in order to pay my lifestyle, live my lifestyle, save the amount of money I was saving, invest the amount that I wanted to invest, and pay for college without changing my investment strategy or my income or my lifestyle, expenses. So I knew I needed to make a certain amount more. And I started just doing research on my own, looking on the internet, and I started to get geared, kind of directed towards flatbed, whether it be removable gooseneck, hauling heavy equipment, drop deck, hauling, all sorts of equipment, cars, general freight, general flatbed freight, or flatbed itself. And the more I studied it, I was like, man, I like going back and forth past my house, and if I pull step deck, removable gooseneck, I'm going to be running all over the Midwest again, being in the truck 4, 5, 6 days a week. I don't like doing that. I'm not one of these guys that lives in my truck. I go home every chance I get. So I make sure that the freight that I haul, the company I'm with, has customers near my home in my area, but they have return freight. Say you live in Little Rock, Arkansas. Right, you want a customer. Well, a good company to look at would be Maverick. They're based right out of Little Rock. They got customers all around that area. They're going to send you up into the Midwest, run around, and right back to Little Rock. You can get home pretty easy, pretty often. Or you might find a dedicated run, maybe from Little Rock up to Columbus, Indiana, and then you got a customer in Indy, so you unload in Columbus, bounce up to Indy. Deadhead, which was another question. What is deadhead? Well, that's your in-between loads. You delivered your load, you're paid for that load. But then you have to reposition yourself to pick up your next load. Those miles from delivering to picking up is deadhead or bouncing. I call it bouncing. But whenever I say bouncing, that's what I'm referring to is unpaid miles that I'm repositioning myself to pick up a next load. So you deliver in Columbus, you've made that money. As soon as they sign on a dotted line and pull that last piece off the trailer, you're paid. That's money in the bank. Then you bounce up to Indy, grab another load, and it might take you right within 50 miles of Little Rock. And, a lot of people, they'll turn that round and they'll go home for a day or 2. And then they'll go back out and do another round and come home for a day or 2. That's the kind of driving I like to do. I go out for a couple, 2, 3 days in the truck. By the end of that 3rd day, I'm over it. I'm ready to go home. I don't care how much money I've made or how much more money's on the table. Well, I take that back. If there's a lot more money on the table, I'm going to stay out there. I'm going to stay in the truck. When the sun, you make hay while the sun's shining. It's not always, there's rainy days around the corner. When the sun's shining, make hay, drivers. But anyway, so I started getting pulled towards flatbed, and I quickly realized the way to stay closer to home, do smaller runs, because I don't care what anybody says. If you look at the industry, the shorter the run, better it pays. Because you got more time involved with it. You can run a 300-mile load and make as much in that day hauling that because you were able to load it, drive it, and unload it, right? And then reposition for the next load all in the same day. Well, you haul a 650, 700-mile run. Well, you're loading it today, driving it, and unloading tomorrow, and then all you're going to get accomplished tomorrow is possibly relocate, reload, and make it a few miles before you're out of hours. You make less on the mile, and and a lot of flatbed, especially steel hauling, is by weight. I don't get paid by the mile, I get paid by the weight. So fill that wagon up. But I quickly realized when I started looking at flatbed, being where I am at, which is, the Midwest region, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, that region right there, tons of steel. And, Southeast too. There's, Nucor facilities, and I think Charlotte, and there's all kinds of steel mills down south. They've got their little pockets where they do steel. But in my region, it's, the Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, this little circle right here. I never leave Indiana. I hate Kentucky. I won't take a load to Kentucky. They can keep it. Not even interested. I'd rather sit and wait for another load or go home and wait for another load, because I'm never much more than a 3-4 hour drive. I'm home. I don't sit. If I unload today, like this morning, if I unloaded and there was nothing to do, I'll give them an hour or 2. And if there's nothing within an hour or 2, I'm in the wind. I do not sit. If a company knows you'll sit and wait for a whole day for a load, they'll expect you to do that. But if they know you're the type of driver, when you get unloaded, if they don't have something for you to do in the next hour or two, you're in the wind. You're gone, because your home's only a few hours away. I can sit at home and make more money than I could. If I sit in a truck, I'm making nothing. No loads, no movement, no money. If I go home, I have other things I can do to make money, you know? So sitting out here on the road is just, nah, I'm not doing it. But I quickly realized that steel was, that region is what was going to get me home. So I started looking into steel hauling, and I was like, man, I don't know about them coils. That made me nervous. You know, that's a really heavy, dense, small, massive weight in such a small area. And, you know, I was nervous about it. So I kept doing my research and watching YouTube videos such as, you know, this. A couple of guys, you know, one of the channels I watched, give him a shout out. It was Super Trucker Dan. Another one was Choice m.a.s, Choice m.a.s, Choice m.a.s. Guy out of, I think at the time he was out of New York area. But I actually met him, funny story. I met him at Pittsburgh, Indiana, at Steel Dynamics. I was loading, and he loaded right next to me, and I just happened to look over. We were out in the chain down yard. We'd finished loading and pulled out to the yard to chain our loads down, and I just happened to look over, and I said, holy crap, I recognized him immediately, but it had been a few years since I watched his videos, and I looked at him, do you do a YouTube channel? And he's like, oh, he just lit up. Oh, yeah, I do. I was like, man, I can't think of the name of your channel. I knew it was kind of an odd name, and then he said, yeah, it's Choice m.a.s. I'm like, that's it. I said, man, I want to shake your hand. I learned so much. That man's videos was all about, for a period of time, he did videos that was all about securement, how to chain down coils, how to strap down slinky coils, and all the different loads that he did. I learned so much about pulling a flatbed when I felt much better about doing it, because now I knew what I was doing in theory. I hadn't done it yet, but in theory, I knew what I was getting into. And when I actually went through the safety meeting, the orientation of, you know, leasing my truck onto a company, they weren't concerned at all with putting me directly under heavy haul loads, because I answered all the questions. I knew, you know, if a coil's sitting on a trailer, shotgun, which shotgun means eye to the front and the back. If a coil's shotgun, how do you chain that down? You know, and you have to have your X chains through the coil with something not letting the chains touch. And then you put your C change, which is rail through coil back to the same rail. And then you put at least one strap or chain over the top. If you do a chain, use a pad. Don't scuff them coils. They're about, some of them are $70,000, $80,000 for a steel coil. You don't want to put marks on that steel coil, because it might be a body panel for an F-150, and if there's scuff marks on there, they can't use it. They'll reject the coil and charge you for it. So take care of your coils. Yeah, I learned so much. I went through orientation. You know, a piece of paper, you draw on there how the chains are going to lay, and they're just like, oh yeah, you got a pretty good idea. Then we went out to a trailer and you know, that had a coil sitting there that couldn't unload till the next day, and he told the driver, you know, hey, if you'll help us out, pull all your chains off so I can, you know, show this. I was only one in orientation that day, since I can have him chain it and I can see that he knows what he's doing. And I went right out there, and man, I mean, I saw exactly all the equipment. I knew exactly how to do it. Zip, zip, zip. I was done. And I did a 2-day orientation. After the first day, I was done. They're like, you know what you're doing. Here's how your paperwork's done. Da, 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 da. Any questions, call us. There's a trailer. There's all your equipment on a pallet loaded on that trailer. See ya. And, you know, that's the research. Do your research. Know what you're getting into before you get into it. I've always been one of those, you know, leap before you look kind of people. You know, I've got myself in a lot of trouble sometimes. I've learned over the years, if I'm going to make the leap, I'm going to do the research and at least have a reasonably accurate idea of what in the world's I'm getting myself into. And yeah, sometimes I've overloaded my butt, my mouth overloaded my butt. It's happened. We've all done it. But steel hauling for me, that's it, man. I'm sure there may be better money out there. There may be better ways to make money out there, but in the trucking industry, 25 years I've been an owner operator. I've never made this kind of money. It's steel hauling has its things. I mean, you're going to go into these steel mills. You see my truck in the other videos. It's always dirty. You know, they've got gravel, and for dust control, they've got trucks going around spraying water on the gravel. Well, now it's mud. So you got to drive down this road and go through a 3-mile steel mill to get to the very back of it's where they load out the coils. So your trucks are, you're always, if you have to have a clean truck, it's spotless and shiny, you're going to spend a lot of time cleaning that truck, because every other load you do, you're going to get dirty. Not to mention, while you're in these steel mills, sometimes it can be so hot. I mean, wow, July, August, it's nothing to be 110, 115, 120 degrees in that building. You are sweating. Oh my God, I've sweat buckets of water. I've literally finished chaining down, because I do, hauling heavy, I'll haul 2 coils. I finished chaining down my 2 coils, and I have to go out to the truck and change all my clothes, because I'm literally soaking wet all the way down to my knees. It looks like somebody turned me over and dipped me in a freaking swimming pool, just drenched. And so, yeah, if you're going to do flatbed, especially hauling steel, make sure you've got multiple changes of clothes in your truck. You're going to take a lot of showers. But it comes with the turf, comes with the territory. I've had people tell me, I want to haul steel, but man, those 3/8 chains, I'm not real strong, Guys, I've seen 5'5" women out there. They can't wing the chains like I do, but they get them there. They pick them up, set them down, get on the deck, pick them up, lay them over. I mean, you don't have to be some big, bulky, tough whatever to haul steel. You can start out small, but I promise you one thing: you start hauling steel, you're going to build some arms. You're going to build forearms. You're going to build some muscle. The first 2.5 weeks that I started hauling steel, I was dying. My arms hurt. I used muscles I hadn't used in years. I'm thinking, oh my God, whoo, man, I got to get back into shape, That's okay. Give it a couple of weeks. You'll be slinging chains and straps and won't even be thinking about it. But you, in the beginning, if you're not used to it, you're going to feel it. I promise you, you're going to feel it. That stuff's heavy. But I've seen big old, I call them tiny 290s. I've seen 350-pound dudes up there crawling around on their deck. They're doing it. Throw them chains. It takes them a little longer. They got to maybe get down on their knees instead of bending over at their waist. The chain, they get it done. There's no excuse unless you have the one thing I wouldn't recommend. If you have a bad back, like really bad back, I wouldn't recommend hauling steel, hauling flatbed in general, because you do a lot of moving. You're up and down on the trailer. Tarps. I don't fold tarps. I hate tarps. I would never pull an open deck flatbed unless it was just some extremely lucrative run that I had to have an open deck. If I pull a flatbed, it's going to have a side kit or it's going to have a Conestoga. The side kit is great. It's 10-fold better than folding tarps. But you're going to get dirty because you're under it and you're throwing the tarp over, and its tarp straps are catching your head, and you're going to have holes in your shirts because them stupid hooks on them tarp straps. When you least expect it, they're going to grab your shirt. You're always going to be dirty because they're dirty because you're so close in proximity to that tarp. You're always going to be dirty. Conestoga, I can go 2 or 3 days and never get dirty. Depending on where you go, but. You just uncrank the back, throw them forward. You never come even close to that tarp. Chain down my coil. I've learned how to do that without getting myself filthy. And, when you're done, tarp back, tighten her down, gone. I never touch the physical tarp so I don't get, dirt all over my shirt. I do get the sweat marks here on my sleeves because, I'm old school, and when I'm sweating, wipe it off. But it's... Yeah, I've never pulled a bull rack. That's one thing I've never even had the desire to do that, because the funny joke I always used to hear was the reason them bull haulers are driving so fast out there on the roads is they're trying to outrun the smell. I don't want to pull. Different strokes for different folks. A lot of guys will tell you the smell of that crap smells like money. They make good money. I'm not going to deny that. But man, them guys run. They run crazy hours because, they when they put that cattle or sheep or pigs or whatever, when they put that stock in that trailer, they got to get to where they're going and get them the hell out of that trailer because, it's stressful for the cattle and, there's all these different things. But that's why they're boogieing, is they got to get them. It's all about minimizing the stress to the livestock. Get them loaded. And to me, put all the panels inside of that trailer and blindfold them cows, because if they can see how fast they're freaking going, I'm sure they're stressed out. But, hey, whatever. But yeah, I've never pulled a bull wagon. so I call them stink wagons, but I couldn't tell you much about them other than, they do make good money. And, funny joke was, what's the difference between a cowboy and a bull hauler? And it's the cowboy has the bull crap on the outside of his boots. Yeah, I know I'm gonna catch some heat over that one, but but yeah, I just wanted to do a video that, kind of what my experiences was with the different things. If you have a bad back, you don't want a fingerprint, if money wise, dry box is going to be bottom of the barrel. I mean, that's the rates. They have miscellaneous good rates, but as a general rule, they get lower rates than any other sector out there. Reefers and tankers are going to be better, to the tune of cents per mile. I mean, they might be, and I think national average, they might be 20-30 cents a mile higher. I haven't checked that in a long time, so don't hold me to that. But they do make more money on the mile pulling the reefer and the tankers. Flatbed, you're going to make even above reefer and tanker because you're hauling a lot of specialized loads, more physical labor involved, more equipment, more skin in the game, so to speak. You're going to make better money pulling a flatbed. The one thing I can tell you that is the best about pulling flatbed over anything else, the customers that you deal with. Like I said, you pull into a receiver with a dry box, they don't give a crap if they need it or not. They could care less. If they make you wait 2 or 3 hours, they don't care. Reefer, same thing. They don't care. Flatbed, it's usually a construction site that has a crane sitting there that they're paying $1,000 an hour for that crane to be there to offload trucks. They want to get them trucks in and out, man. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Get behind that guy, and as soon as he pulls up, pull right under the crane. We'll have you offloaded. Go ahead and take all your chains off and be ready, because they're paying huge money to unload that truck. Steel mills, they understand time is money. They've got the overhead cranes running inside of there. Appointments, dry box and reefer, even tanker, you're going to have a lot of appointment times. A lot of what we do in steel hauls, first come, first serve. You pull in, there's 6 trucks in line, crap, there's 6 trucks. I had to wait 20 minutes. 6 trucks in 20 minutes. Bloop, bloop. I mean, you pull in there while you're waiting in line. Most guys know, get your chains off, leave one on for the movement of getting into the, up under the crane, but take all but one securement piece off and loosen your tarp, but don't untarp it. That way, in case it rains or whatever, but have your tarp ready. That way, when I pull into the building, I literally slide my tarp forward, climb up on there, undo one ratchet, throw that chain on the floor, step off the deck. That crane's right there. He's got that coil and gone. 12 minutes, 13 minutes. I mean, you're through. My record was gate to gate, pulled in the drive, checked in, unchained, untarped, unloaded, retarped, tightened the tarp, pulled out the gate, 12 minutes flat. There's a lot of that out here. And there's places you're going to go and wait, but they're getting few and far in between. Most places are going, from this time of the morning to this time of the afternoon, and since COVID and whatever, a lot of them don't load till unload or load until 5, 6, 7 o'clock at night. A lot of them quit at 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So you got to get up bright and early to get your load off, so you can get over here by that time and get reloaded, and then you got the rest of your hours to boogie down the road. But most of the places you go is you pull in, get loaded, get gone. They don't worry about appointment times. And that's so nice. I mean, efficiency. It's just efficient. I like that. But yeah, that's just, off the top of my head, the basics of what I can imagine. There's a lot more intricacies to it, but just a rough overview. Anybody ask me what they should do, whether it be flatbed, reefer, or van, it depends, really. I mean, on your situation. If you're obviously you're not poor of health, or you wouldn't have a CDL, but if you're a weaker person and you don't want, if you're I call them Rico Suaves. If you're driving down the road and you're changing clothes and combing your hair and, putting on your aftershave, and you want to get out in your flip-flops or whatever, flatbed may not be for you. More than likely not for you. Because most of the places you go to, as soon as they see shorts or flip-flops, they're going to say you're not on the property unless you've got long jeans, full leather, at least full leather shoes or boots, no flip-flops, no shorts. You're going to wear blue jeans or, work jeans or even sweatpants, as long as they're long, full leg cover. A lot of places, they won't let you go in with a short sleeve shirt. You have to have these protective, right here, they're called protective sleeves. It's a cut resistant material. You have to put it on with your sleeves, and it's going to make you sweat. They're so hot, but a lot of places require that. Yeah, you might want to stick with a van or maybe even a reefer. But if you're the type of person that doesn't mind getting their hands dirty, you can always wash your hands, folks. If you don't mind getting your hands dirty and doing a little bit of work, you're gonna make more money. I promise you. Job satisfaction. I've never felt more accomplished at the end of the week that I accomplished something as I did hauling steel, because I can look back and think, man, I moved some tonnage this week. Holy cow. It's a whole different way of doing things. I would recommend anybody starting out, go for the gold, man. It took me 19 years to finally figure it out. Holy crap, flatbed's where it's at. I'm telling you, go where it's at. I did the 2019 year school of hard knocks to get where I am. I'm telling you, you can skip all that. Go right to where the money's at. There's, I don't know where, depending on where you're at, there's Maverick is a good company. They run good equipment. They have schools. I think you can go there and they'll help you get your CDL, train you, put you in the truck with a trainer. And I believe they'll do start to finish. And I think TMC does the same thing. But the two good companies to start out with on flatbed, I would recommend, if you're, say, Little Rock to Pennsylvania, Michigan to Georgia, just east of I-35, you're gonna run that region. I would say Maverick and TMC are two really good companies to get started with. I've known people that have worked at both. My own cousin, as a matter of fact, retired from the Army and wanted to get into truck and went to TMC, and they got him a CDL, put him through the school, put him with a trainer. Once they were comfortable, he knew what he was doing, they turned him out on his own. He loved it and had nothing but good things to say about the company. So I would highly recommend, plus they're a mega carrier, they're a big carrier. They're going to have, your insurance and benefits and, company driver perks. But I don't like working for other people. I can't stand working for somebody that I know more than. Which happens quite often. Everybody's had it. Their boss, they can't believe, how did that man ever get that job? My God, he doesn't know anything. That's me. I have a very low tolerance for stupidity. I cannot work for somebody who doesn't at least know what in the world they're doing. So I went the owner-operator route years ago. I was 23 when I first, I drove a truck for others for the first few years, but I very quickly knew, man, I can do this. I know what I'm doing. And I became an owner-operator right away. But like I said, it took me a long time to learn everything that I've learned now. And with the, YouTube nowadays, I can shrink that up to a few videos and just put all of that knowledge right there. All you have to do is watch the video, learn what you can learn, make the decision, and go for it. No need to wait 20 years to learn what I've learned. You can learn it in 20 minutes. Y'all have a good day.